the United States government under the presidency of President Donald Trump has engaged in a series of international policies, particularly as affect visa issuance to foreign nationals that they want to travel to America. And of course, recently you recall that on the eve of Christmas, the American army invaded Nigeria, and of course they launched a series of missiles to douse tension and also eliminate or possibly push out the terrorists that have been giving Nigeria serious issues, which has led to a lot of insecurity, particularly in the northern part of Nigeria. And just about 2 weeks ago as well, the U.S. government also invaded Venezuela, and the president of that nation, Maduro, was arrested and taken to America, which of course has totally been condemned by the international community. Yet, the U.S. government is not ready to stop at any way. We are being joined on the program this afternoon by a lecturer in the Department of History and Diplomatic Studies, Olabisi Onabanjo University. That's talking about Mr. Seun Soyile. He will be taking a look at this critical topic as to why America is on this series of invasion and foreign policies to make sure that they secure their country. And a lot of people are saying that no, that will not give them a lot of relationship with other countries in the world. So, Mr. Soyile, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you so very much for having me.
Okay, let's start on this note. We saw what America did in December in Nigeria, and a couple of weeks, or just about 2-3 weeks after that, they also invaded Venezuela and arrested the president of that country. So where lies the sovereignty of these countries, particularly Venezuela, that America even arrested their president?
Well, thank you so very much for having me. I must say that it is very interesting what is unfolding in the international arena. There have been allusion to several interventions that America, has made in different parts of the world. But we have to let's admit that we are in an era of power. We are in the age of real politics, power politics. Only might is right in the international system, so the reality stays, and that is what is playing out. The idea of a non-based international system we have come to see is a mirage, because the realistic perspective to analyzing interstate relations within the international system is basically powered by ability and power politics. And that's exactly what you are saying. So only might is right. And that is what America is portraying. You must also know that America has put upon itself the responsibility of maintaining security, peace, and justice around the world. And what Donald Trump is simply doing with the American foreign policy in recent times is to confirm the superiority, the might of the American state in trying to maintain the international system, irrespective of whose horse is God.
Okay, now if America is trying to do all this in the interest of peace globally, but some nations are also standing up that America is going too far. Remember, we have the G5, of which Russia is one of them, Germany is there, and so they are saying America is going too far with the way they are pursuing their foreign policies and the way they are relating with the international community. What do you have to say to that?
You see, the projection of the American power around the world is just synonymous with what other superpowers that you have mentioned are also doing. Look at what Russia is doing in Ukraine, trying to invade a sovereign state and annexing it to be part of its own republic. So if Russia will do that in its backyard, and China is trying tooth and nail to make sure that Taiwan is kept under subjection, what then stops America from maintaining its superiority within the context of the Western Hemisphere. We must also understand that this event unfolding is a product of a major pillar of the American foreign policy, which is the Monroe Doctrine, which means that it is America's manifest destiny to maintain leadership in Western Hemisphere and to contain any form of external interference in that region that is antagonistic to American interests. So if that is what America and Donald Trump is doing, how does that deviate from what Russia is doing in Ukraine and what China is doing to Taiwan? So it is an era of power. It is an era where only might is right. Some people have defined the international system as a situation where the big fish eat up the small ones, and the small ones are left with nothing. In the jungle, as we say, only might communicate facts, and so or subjection and population, and that is exactly what we are saying. So, with regard to other superpowers, America is simply doing what others are doing, and for many people, it is no fun.
Okay, but some people have alleged that more than anything else, what the people, particularly superpowers, you just mentioned China and Russia, to also engage in a similar activity like America is doing. Is that not for economic gains? Because America has gone ahead to say that they will be getting crude oil from Venezuela, and they are giving their terms as to how this particular trade will occur. So is it not for economic gains rather than maintaining peace, rather than ensuring that there is a peaceful atmosphere across the globe?
Well, the idea of America, pursuing a peaceful international system, for America is the same thing, because the current administration in America is reading the international system and the international politics from the point of view of interest, nationalistic interest, nationalism, and national growth and interest. And for them, it is their interest that can maintain the international peace. Now, if we look at this intervention within the background, against that background, that there has been a lot of anti-American interest going on within the Western Hemisphere. We are seeing in recent times a situation where Venezuela is signing an agreement with China, entering into bilateral trade with Russia, and you see by the time of the Monroe Doctrine, it is unacceptable or inimical to American interests for America to accede to any form of intervention or intrusion by any external power in the Western Hemisphere. It is against their security, and it is against the projection of their political power. So what we are seeing, simply put, is the supremacy of the argument of the realist school of thought that has come with the notion that the only way to protect your interest is the accumulation of power. It is the equipment of your arsenal in a way that you become an hegemon, all right? And then you'll be able to lord your interest on other countries. And that is exactly what we are seeing. So for me, it is it shows the superiority of the argument of the realist school of thought or realism. That you see, in the game in interstate relations, only the powerful dictate the state, and that is what is playing out as we are witnessing in the international.
But you agree that the formation of the United Nations in 1945, shortly after the Second World War, is to make sure that there is a peaceful cohabitation among all nations of the world, and to also let every nation enjoy sovereignty, that is, within the geographical entity called a particular country, like we have in Nigeria, you have Venezuela, and some other countries. Now, with what is happening of recent, is that not an invitation likely that could precipitate a Third World War?
Well, a Third World War, that is, for me, a projection that is too far away. Because as we are today, we don't yet have countries that are equal. Now, a situation of war is almost precipitated when you have countries that are of equal capacity militarily, all right, and technologically and otherwise. So all of these things represent what could be certain conditions that must be available before we can have what the First World War and Second World War occurred, because it was the international system comprised of so many countries that can be gauged to be equal technologically and militarily. And so war became, or when we look at the fact that the German states grew up very fast after their unification in 1871, all right, became so strong that it could hold the Berlin Conference of 1884 and 1885. Even after the First World War, and it was brought down on its knees. Within the period of 20 years, it rose back again. It became a very strong country economically and militarily. And this superiority, the fact that they were able to survive this warfare and rebuild their economy and militarily easily, made them to be somewhat of unequal with other European countries. And that was why you could see the appeasement policy from Britain, Italy, and all of those things. So what we have now, for me, is such that we just have a major power, an hegemon. That is the United States of America. Today, that difference is there. No country will want to look at America in the face and say, America should go to hell. No country wants to do that. America will not also want to go to fight Russia or China or North Korea. These are countries that also equally are equipped, technologically. In terms of their possession of nuclear weapons. So the fact that any war within this big four would definitely precipitate mutually assured destruction is a major deterrent to warfare. So as it is, America has that, and don't forget that the American president Donald Trump and the Russian president Vladimir Putin are on talking terms. They are friends, so to speak. So all these things make the prediction of a third war and a distant circumstance as far as I'm concerned. But as it is, what America is simply doing is what its power could afford it to do. Even if it is within the Western Hemisphere, if there is enough justification for America to do these things. Talking about international system and norm-based international order. So, you see, the norm and the law that we call international law today is maintained by who? The same superpower. You can imagine what happened during the recent COVID-19 pandemic crisis. America simply removed its funding, and World Health Organization was almost going to be brought on its knees. He who takes the fighter, it takes the stone. If America is responsible for all of these things, internationally, then some of these things that is being done is also in furtherance of its national, national interest. Like what we say, war is the implementation of foreign policy by other means. That's what we're having. So for some of us, it is just what it is, the collapse of norm-based international order.
So you don't foresee in any way of a third world war happening in the nearest, not too distant future, because of what is happening virtually everywhere. Now, this is not the first time America will go into a country to arrest their president. It won't perhaps be the last, because we have had about 5 in the past, and yet America is still towing this part of ensuring that they invade a particular country, most especially, as some experts have said, because of economic gains. So, do you foresee any third world war happening soon?
Like I said, third world war is a distant, probability. contemplating at the moment. But maybe a little bit of crisis here and there. For example, the intervention, of course, of America in Venezuela. If eventually America starts pumping oil from Venezuela into, in large quantity, it will have implications for oil politics. All right, it will have implications for international oil politics. In the sense that, pumping millions of barrels of, don't forget that Venezuela is sitting on a very, that is the largest oil reserve in the world. And if America is pumping millions of such barrels of oil and putting that into the international market, what we are likely going to have is an oil glut, which will drop down, which will definitely crash the oil prices internationally. It is at that time there are countries like Saudi Arabia, all right, so countries and other countries who are major players in OPEC, right, oil producing and exporting countries, will now come to the top. I think we'll be having will be some kind of crisis and economic warfare and all of those things. But militarily, a third world war is something that I am not foreseeing, not even in the nearest future.
Okay, Mr. Shoyle, now let's look at the United Nations. Its establishment is already 80 years and came to being to mediate among different nations of the world where there seems to be acrimony or seems to be disagreement. That the UN will intervene and make sure that they bring peace around such countries or around such regions as it may be. But is that not what America and the so-called superpowers of the world are doing? Is that not eroding the responsibility, the role that UN is supposed to play? Because UN, since this happened now, has not really have a direction to follow. They've only condemned the invasion by America and further and also the arrest of Maduro, president of Venezuela. So is UN still playing that mediating role? Should UN still be in assistance if all these are happening and they are helpless? They can't do nothing. Oh, hello, Mr. Shoyle. I guess the network is becoming unfriendly because we couldn't connect him there. We'll still keep trying and see whether we can still bring him back on the program. We are taking a look at America's unbridled visa policy and, of course, invasion. You recall that about 2 weeks ago, American government invaded Venezuela and subsequently arrested the president of this nation, which many people across the globe have actually condemned and say America is going too far with their international policies. And apart from that as well, too, just recently, about 2-3 days ago, American government also came up with another policy that has to do with immigration into their country, talking about 75 countries that are now barred from applying for visa, particularly visas B1 and B2. They even said that for those countries, those citizens of those countries, particularly which Nigeria is also one of them, that they must have a bond of $15,000 before they could be allowed to apply and subsequently process the application before visa is issued or not. So all these are playing out, and many across the globe are saying America is going over the board and doing what shouldn't be, that could necessarily, of course, lead to Third World War II. Don't forget that the Second World War ended in 1945, and that was what gave birth to the United Nations that is mediating among all nations of the world to bring about peace, to bring about peaceful cohabitation and the likes of that. So let's quickly go on this break. When we return, we're hoping that Mr. Shoyle, a lecturer in the Department of History and Diplomatic Studies, Olabisi Onabanjo University, here in Ogun State, will be back with us on the program to share more of his experience on the topic of the week. Join us again. a bond of $15,000. What is America up to in all of this?
The government of any country is responsible for the immigration of the country, and so it is purely within the purview of duties of countries, government of countries, to determine immigration policy and criteria and how all of these things are involved. So if America, because everybody is going to America, and this thing has implications, social and economic implications for America. Now, if America now says that these are the conditions you need to fulfill to get there, it is purely nationalism, and that is what we are seeing that is taking over the world now. So we are seeing nationalism pumping internationalism. The era of open door policy, where you can just go ahead and just move freely as you want and all that, those days are gone. Everybody is protecting its economy. No economy can be open forever. And for people to come to a particular country and then begin to constitute some kind of challenge in terms of criminality and all of those things. So it is still within the purview of the isolationist or closed-off policy that America has always been known for. And so what we are seeing is the emergence of Donald Trump, entrenching this, ideology that resonates with the ordinary, citizens of America, the one that we can call a pure American, and that is exactly what we are seeing. And so we are in the day of power politics. We are in the day of nationalism, protectionism, populism, and all of these things. And we can't just not shy away from these ideals.
Okay, it does not translate to the fact that America is having a breakdown of international relations with those countries. Don't you think, peradventure, that is what is happening in that direction?
I didn't get that, sir.
Does it not translate to the fact that America is having a breakdown in international relations with those countries?
You see, the breakdown itself is in the pursuit of American, national interest. The interest of America, as it is now, is to get as much resource. It's also a resource politics. Is to get as much resource within the international system. It is also to make sure that the American economy is not depressed by open door policy, by unfettered immigration policy that make everybody to head to America. And this is what we are seeing. So breakdown of relations or not. The present American government is fixated on America first, America second, America third. So it's a nationalistic, fervor that we are seeing around the American foreign policy. You see, and we can't wish that away, because if that is what the government wants for its country, and the government is in power, we just have to take it as we see it.
But Mr. Shone, survey have shown in the past that even up to now, that these foreign nationals contribute greatly to the economy of America. And so if you are shutting the door against those foreign nationals now, will that not have adverse effect on the economy of America?
Well, definitely. If you go by economic indices in terms of the contribution of those foreign nationals to American economy. But then, the idea is that the coming of these people, to some extent, also shutting out the American nationals from, maximally participating in their economy, because most of these people that come in, they come in and take up jobs and, earn money and all of that. And in some cases,
these are some of the things that American people, because not all of them are there to do many jobs. Many also are going there, participating meaningfully, in the economic development of the country. And in doing that, there is a lot of capital flight in the sense that these nationals send back, send money home, to their relatives for capital projects and all of those things at home, which also, contribute adversely to the economy of America. So it is neither here or there. It has its positivity and also negativity. So we have to balance it at the end of the day. And if the government of the day is of the opinion that, they feel that negativity way far ahead of positivity, I mean, there's nothing that we have to do. What everybody should be looking at now is how to fix our dysfunctional countries so that we have no reason to travel elsewhere for whatever reason.
All right, Mr. Shewshowile, just on the last note before we call it a day on the program until when we come your way again next week. In one sentence, is it possible for America to operate in isolation? Or any country around the globe, is it possible to operate in isolation?
No. No country can operate in isolation. Countries must still relate with one another. And America is not isolating itself. Even war itself is a form of relationship. So we cannot say that Ukraine and America are not having a relationship, even though it is a volatile and a very hostile relationship. So that was why I said that warfare is the extension of relationship, right, by other means. So by going to war, by trying to, shake up the system, and all of these things that the Donald Trump-led administration is doing, is also relating with the other countries in the international system. And I don't think any administration is more involved in the issue pertaining to international system more than this administration. So the idea of the American country being in isolation does not even come to the fore in the first place.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Shewshowile, a lecturer in the Department of History and Diplomatic Studies, Olabisi Onabanjo University in Ogun State, Nigeria, for sharing your talk with us on the program. Despite the inadequacies of the network, but we still have a lot that we have turned out for our people to learn from. So we say big thank you for being on the program.
Thank you so very, very much for having me.
All right, that is how we draw the curtain on this edition of the program, Democracy Part. I'll say it next week, God willing. Keep flourishing in the peace of the Most High. Bye for now.